Okay, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I see Renee, Villalobos, Gregory, Hamido, Napoli, all coming in on the YouTube broadcast. Great to see you guys here. Welcome people on Facebook as well. I'm Rachel, if you don't know, and I run Rachel's English Academy. It's an online training school that I made based on my years of experience working with students, helping them reach their English speaking goals. And this week, we happen to be having a sale. Actually, tomorrow is the very last day. So we're having a warm welcome through this live stream to anybody out there who's curious about working on their accent with the kind of materials that we have in the Academy. We are running a sale 60 to 70% off. And actually, during this webinar, so for the next half hour or so, we have a code called Live10, which you see at the top, and that is worth an extra 10% off. Ciao, Emilio from Italia. Good to see you here. Young West, been a supporter for a long time. I'm glad to see you guys here. Hello, and thank you so much. So I'm going to go get my student, Andre. Please do excuse, I am trying to get over a cold. There will be a little bit of coughing. My student Andre's native language is Portuguese. Okay, Andre, let's get you off of mute. I just asked to unmute you.
Okay.
Great. I can hear you. Yes. Andre, thank you so much for being here. So I know that you live in Michigan. I saw that in the little bio that you wrote for the Rachel's English Academy community. How long have you been in the U.S.? What are you using English for? What was sort of the final reason that made you want to sign up for the Academy?
Well, I moved here 37 years ago, and I use English on my daily basis. I am married to an American, so I work, and I never had much of an issue in terms of being understood. But recently, probably a year or two ago, I learned about different ways to soften my accent. And initially, I joined a different school, and through that, I was able to learn about you through a YouTube video. I think you had a free lesson to kind of have an idea of the flavor of yours. And I think that fit my profile a lot better. I think it makes sense what you do. And your teachers are very good as well. So I thought, well, let me try to do this. It's just personal self-improvement that I don't think it's ever too late to do it.
So for you, it's not an issue of being understood. That's going fine for you, but it's more just the polishing that you want to do for your own self to sound as close to native as possible.
Yes, and being here for so long, regardless of that, the things that you teach in the academy, I don't think I could have been here for 200 years and I will never notice unless someone pointed out to me. So I think it's a valid thing. And if there's anybody listening out there that, like myself, just want to sharpen and improve your English, so I think it's worth it.
Thank you so much.
I don't want to sound like I'm boasting or so, but I think it's, my wife tells me that I'm improving, but, she likes me. So I can't take face value. But there's some principles there that are, the placement is something that nobody ever mentioned, and it's something not easy to do, but yeah. I think I try conscientiously to do that.
Well, why don't we start talking about that a little bit? I feel that there are a couple vowel and rhythm things that as we tweak them, we'll also tweak your placement down a little bit. Your placement overall is quite good, but since we're looking for these sort of final polishing things, I think that we can find a little bit of a more relaxed placement through things like relaxing a few vowels and some of the rhythms. For example, I'm going to take a 3-syllable word that you said. I'm going to put it in chat. And to everyone on the live stream, unfortunately, you won't be able to see this chat. It's just for Rachel's English Academy students. But I will make sure I tell you what we're working on. But I'm going to type it first so that Andre can read it without hearing me say it. So can I hear you on that word?
Recently.
Yes, exactly. So the word is recently. And when you said it, and I wrote down also the word initially, another multi-syllable word that is feeling like the syllables are very similar in length. Recently, and you said initially. And it would be more natural for those unstressed syllables to be even shorter and quieter. So, for example, the word recently, instead of saying re, I would love to hear re. Yes, right. Very quiet. And now let's forget the ly ending. Let's say recent.
Recent.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Yes, I coached you wrong on that. I was coaching you re. That's exactly right. Recent. So not sent, but sent.
So let me see if I understood. The stressed syllable is the first one.
Yes,
Correct?
I in my
Okay, no, that,
haze from my cold was coaching that incorrectly. Yes, you caught that, and thank you. So it is re, and then
recent.
yes. That feels really different than recent. Scent has a more of a full vowel feeling. We don't need that. Recently. Yeah. Now let me think. Yeah, I heard a little bit of a T release, and we don't really need that with this with an N. NT is followed by L. Give me sort of a stop feeling. Recent. Can you hear that?
Recently.
Yes. Good. Exactly. Now let's play it, say it, and I want you to think about your unstressed syllables just being really short, hearing them as being really short and quiet when you hear it from me, and then imitating that. Recently. Recently. Yeah, that's great. That's pretty different than recently. And I think I also probably heard a bit of a real T in there when you were just speaking more freely. ... When we have that sort of equal value given to the syllables, it's just a little bit less clear for us to understand because we want that contrast. So I want everyone there to know that when I said with Andre we were doing the play it, say it method, that is a method we use a lot in the academy where we have a lot of training audio that you just do a lot of listen and repeating. And that is part of how we change the habits, because it's not about learning this, and Andre can learn this and can think, oh, okay, I don't want my syllables to all be the same length. They need to have contrast. But unless he trains it, that habit won't change. So Andre, let's take the other word. So the word is initially, and some non-native speakers might even want to say initially because of how it's written. But we're going to go in it. So it's the second syllable that's stressed. The first syllable is just going to be really quiet and low energy. Can I hear that? Yes. I like how quiet that is. And people might think that's too quiet to be clear. And you are actually right. We don't want every syllable to be clear. We need some to be so quiet that they are unclear to have good contrast with the stressed syllables. So let me hear inish. Yes, that sounds great. The placement also feels a little bit lower to me. It feels more relaxed. Maybe from taking energy out of that first vowel. Now we're going to take just the last two syllables. So to make sure those have a really unstressed feel, I would pronounce them shully. Exactly. Shully. Exactly. It could maybe even be a little quieter. Shully. And of course, with the n, and then the whole thing as a part of that shape, then we hear it right away very clearly as initially. So let's just play it, say it. Initially. Yes, I love that. Now, one thing I always want to do with my students is I want to make sure that I'm not seeing a physical habit being put in, and there's a little bit of this happening for the stress initially. So we want to make sure it's really common to do that, but we want to make sure that we're not doing that. if you want to move something, which isn't a bad idea, move your arm, because that's easy to stop doing later. But training in a little head movement is harder to stop doing later. So that's fine to say initially and to feel the movement with your arm, but we definitely want to make sure we're not training in movements with stress, because that does happen. That's very natural to want to do that. So let's try without moving or just moving your arm initially.
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 Yes, great. That's a lot more smooth sounding, a lot more relaxed. I also wanted to work with you on a few of your sentences, but I didn't write them down. So let's just have you do some free talk until we find sentences. I'm probably going to be working on the same concept of pulling some back for more contrast. So why don't you tell me anything you want to about your day, about your weekend, your life, anything?
Well, one thing that I think affects the way I speak is the fact that I have to use dictation software every single day. And for that to write properly, I have to be, sometimes I enunciate the words more than I should. If I be just talking. That's a habit.
That's hard to break. And I mean, I also sometimes speak more clearly when I'm doing dictation, because otherwise it doesn't quite get it. I found certain programs are very good at figuring out my American English accent and others aren't as good. I'm going to type a phrase, and this isn't like word for word what you said, but it's the gist of it. So we're talking about how working with this software is maybe making you over enunciate some. And I want to hear you say the first two words of this phrase that I typed before I tell anybody on the live stream what it is.
A habit.
Good. The phrase is a habit. So when you said it when you were just speaking, I didn't love your vowel there. Didn't sound quite right to me. It actually sounded really fine there. So I have a feeling that when you're thinking about just the word itself and you're focusing on that, then you say it without any issues. But it's when you're thinking about all the other things. So I think your a vowel is probably fine, but it might be worth doing some training of that vowel in the academy. Have you worked on essentials or the daily plan, or what have you focused your work on?
When I first, we didn't have the essentials, but once you release that, I just finished essential 1 and module 1, and starting the module 2 now. Before that, I was just following the pathway. From the and,
so
pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that you could spend some time. You could, as you're working on essentials, you could also take some days where you go over to the courses tab in the vowel and diphthongs course. Just find this vowel. It's called a, as in bat vowel, in that content, and then you can just we have a soundboard with like 100 words, and just do those regular pace slow motion and make sure that because that's a pretty American kind of sound, that a. And I think you do have it. It's maybe just not going to be a consistent part of your everyday speech right now. So a little bit of training on that would be great. But I also want to talk about the rhythm. I'm going to have you free talk some more so I can get the exact phrase that you're saying. So what else about your life? Tell me something about where you live in Michigan.
We live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. UFM, University of Michigan. That's where the big house is. But I do travel for work. Right now I'm in Soldotna, Alaska.
Okay, I was wondering about the poster behind you.
Yeah.
All right.
That's an Airbnb.
Okay, awesome. Let's take a couple sentences from that. Okay, so I first want to take the phrase where you said where you live. And the phrase you said was, I live in Ann Arbor. And there was sort of a, I saw with your mouth, an. It was like your phrase stopped and you restarted it to emphasize. And that's really normal when a word starts with a vowel, but we don't necessarily want that. We still just want flow. So I want the word in to link into an. I live in Ann Arbor. So not in Ann Arbor, but in Ann Arbor. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Let me hear just in Ann Arbor.
The thing is that the is a difficult.
Yeah,
Uh, it's a different vowel for me to pronounce. So I have to
yeah,
reshape my mind for
right.
this if I try to be relaxed. So in Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
In Ann
It's
Arbor.
pretty good. And I can see that Ann Arbor is taking some habit. I mean, some effort. The thing that's about this vowel and is we don't really need to lift that much to get the back of the tongue to lift. What we actually need for that vowel is for the tongue to be lifted in the back, and then it relaxes down into the N. So even though we can kind of smile into that, and it's not necessary and it's not a problem to do it, but I feel like it's a little bit effortful the way it's coming from you. So I think I would have you think about, okay, this part here doesn't need to move so much. It's really It's the tongue that's going to be making the sound and the jaw drop. And let's play it, say it. Let's do play it, say it with that. And
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 So I'm starting to exaggerate a little bit the that happens between the vowel and the N. And okay, I'm seeing a lot more relaxation here. That's fantastic. In Ann. In Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor.
In Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor.
Yes. That sounds great. Very different than in Ann Arbor with that big, ooh, we just want the smoothness. And also you said, I'm going to type another phrase that he said, and then I'll let everyone know what we're working on. I see somebody coming in from Poland. So great to see you guys coming into the chat. Hello. Okay, so the phrase you said was, I do travel for work. And it sounded good. I mean, obviously I understood it, but we want to take it and we want to tighten up the rhythm even more. So you stressed do, which is normal because you're saying, well, I live in Ann Arbor, but I do travel for work. But I can be very minimal at the beginning. I.
I do travel for work.
Yeah, let me hear. I do.
Do.
I do, exactly.
I do.
Hold on a second. I want to think about that vowel. I do. I think that to make your oo vowel a little bit more American is you want to start with your mouth a little bit more relaxed. And this is the only vowel that there has to be a little bit of movement. Pretty much every other vowel sound, it's about being in a movement the whole time. But for oo, it has to start relaxed and then come in to the lip rounding. Otherwise, it sounds accented. Like if I was going to say the word do, and I was going to start with my lips rounded, do, then that doesn't sound right to us. We like to have the lips relaxed to start. Do, and then we round them. Do. Right? So it's almost like a diphthong, two vowel sounds together, but it's totally not officially that. It's just the way the Americans have been pronouncing that. So if we're starting with the lip rounding, it's going to be too tight sounding. Do. We like the relaxation and then the rounding. Do. Yeah, let's do some words with that. Who?
Who?
New.
You.
That's a little bit British sounding. New. New. It's more of a new. And one more word.
Shoe.
Shoe. Let me hear sh.
Shoe.
Yeah, shoe.
Two.
Exactly.
Two.
Exactly.
Three.
So it's just a little bit more relaxed at the beginning. And I don't
The same.
go ahead.
The same for. The same for blue.
Mhm.
Blue.
Mhm.
Same.
All of those vowels, all of the vowels where it's just written with the U in phonetics is start relaxed. Blue, two, me too, two, shoe, new, blue. And then also when it's
So start.
unstressed.
So start more relaxed and then makes the circle. Makes the. Okay.
Exactly. Curfew as well. When it's unstressed, it's the same. It's also ew, 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 and not ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, so I want to hear again. I do.
I do.
That was pretty good. Let me hear you
Right.
stress. Let's do it in slow motion. I do.
I do.
Okay, I'm saying a little bit do. It's the lips aren't rounding, which is good, but it looks a little bit tense. Do. Do. Maybe a little bit more jaw drop. Do.
I do.
Mm-hmm. That's a clearer sound. I do.
Do.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost
Do.
like a little jaw drop, then lip rounding. Do.
Do.
Mm-hmm. That sounds very good. Do. And
Do.
again, in the vowels course, we have a soundboard with about 100 words with that vowel sound. So go to the oo vowel and just work on all of those. And in the slow motion, again, you should hear more obviously that transition, just like we're doing here. Ew. So I would say work with the words only in slow motion for the first couple days and then bring them in. And for everyone out there, just because we're not starting with lip rounding doesn't mean there's still tension like this. Do. Do. A relaxed little bit of a jaw drop. Exactly. Okay. Okay. Now I want to take the second half of that question. Of that phrase. It already got pushed up a little bit. So I'll type it again. Okay, we're going to forget the word travel for now. Let me hear the last two words.
For work.
Exactly. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yes, I liked how short you made for. We're saying for work, and he said for work, which is what we want. It did feel a little bit bouncy and separate, sort of like recently, how they felt a little bit disconnected for work. And the reduction is there, and it's not like I hear a big break in sound, but it also doesn't feel like it stretches up into it. And I do want that. I do want for work instead of for work. For work. So no, it's almost like, sausages. We have a link, and it's like it's pressed in between. We don't want that with our words. We want our words to be a tube of toothpaste that's just being squirted out with nothing clamping down. For work.
Work.
Say,
Work.
do it again.
Work.
For work. Let's play it. Say it. For work.
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 Work.
For work.
Work.
For work.
Work.
Yes. The problem with Zoom is it sometimes cuts off sound, so I don't always hear. That's why I had you play it, say it with me, because it was cutting you off some and I couldn't always hear what you were doing, so I had to hear it a bunch of times in a row. But that is right, and that is what we want. And it's just simple and quiet for work. All right, let's try the whole phrase. And the word travel, that's not what we're stressing, because you're stressing do. I do travel for work, but do and work have that up down shape.
I do travel for work.
Yes.
I said
No, it was
too long.
Yes, you're right. Your stress was a little bit too long, but you were feeling the stress, and that's okay. We're here to do it different ways and to try different approaches to find the thing that's going to feel good. And I actually love it that you said it, you tried it, and you thought, and I don't really love it that way. This is too long. So go ahead and do it again.
I do travel for work.
Okay.
Do travel
Yes. I think that
for work.
I think it was all sounding fine. I thought do was a little bit long, but it's also out of the context of the conversation, I do travel for work. I think I probably actually would stress it that much. But I think maybe what I'm feeling is I want the I do. I want it to connect in just sort of like in Ann Arbor and in for work. A little bit there's a re-stress happening to start. I do rather than I do. I do travel for work.
I do travel. Is that there are so many things to think about.
I know.
Let me try. I I do I do travel for work.
Yes, exactly. No, that was great. So if I was going to give you one thing to think about, because there's so much, it would sort of be the circle. Like the do and the work is on the top going around, and the rest is just falling from it. It's not its own separate thing. So maybe it would work really to just focus only on I do travel for work. But that was starting to sound really smooth. Let me hear it again.
Do travel for work.
Yeah.
Do travel for work.
So how does that feel? It's not super different. It is a little different. It's a little bit smoother and sloppier, which, funnily enough, is what we want. We do want that feeling of what feels sort of sloppy, like the words connecting together and gliding in a way that seems not right, is actually what does feel right. So do you sense that, or what would you say is the difference in the speaking style?
Well, the musicality that English has, you stress that in the academy, it's very evident that sometimes for a foreigner is difficult to grasp at the beginning, but the play and say it and having some coaching like this brings me down to reality that there's, even though people can understand me, there are ways to improve that. So I think it's important, and it's not my natural way of speaking.
Yeah.
And that's something that we learn if we want to, and I am putting some time into that. So hopefully we'll get there. I think I'm speaking better now than I did a year ago before I joined.
That's amazing.
So it's a work in progress.
Okay, I have just one more phrase I want to work with you on, and then I'm going to tell you another course in the academy where I think you'll get a lot of bang for your buck with your time, although finish Essentials first, because Essentials does sort of set you up for just the way to approach the soundboards and the play it, say it. Okay, hold on. Now let me think. Your phrase was, dang it, I wrote the word some, and then I got distracted talking. It was about you were feeling that you've improved. Okay, I can't remember the one phrase I was going to write down, but it's okay because there's every phrase, there's some flow that I can tweak. So tell me what you're going to have for dinner tonight.
We're planning on grilling. We're going to have steak, ribeye, my favorite.
Okay, great. All right, I love that. We're planning on grilling. So that was quite good. It was a little bit, we're planning on. So instead of sort of punching with a little bit of extra air, that's beginning of that stressed syllable, I want like the energy to come in the middle of it in this shape, not in the beginning of it with air. So instead of we're planning, I want we're planning.
So I'm a little confused because the P is one of those consonants that we do have some explosions.
Yeah, you're right. It's called a plosive, but I do think a lot of students overdo that, especially at the beginning of a stressed syllable. I have a feeling that if you took some air out, it would feel more right because that burst of air is interrupting a little bit the flow. And so it sounds like a re-emphasis. And I'll let you know if it loses too much of that, then it starts to sound like a B instead of a P. But it's a more subtle difference than I think students originally think. They think this is a burst of air. Here we go. But it's still going to sound perfectly right with less air, I think. We're planning.
Planning.
Yes, exactly. Now let's throw on the word on. And I'm not going to say it. I just want to hear how you would say that.
We're playing on.
Yeah, okay, let me think.
Short.
It's going to be very short, and I also want the second syllable of planning to be very short. Ning on, ning on, ning on, ning on. Yes.
Planning. We're planning.
Yes, we're planning on. Exactly. And so now, again, by shortening, it has sort of taken some of the extra air out. The energy has been pulled back a little bit in a way that is more natural for me to hear. Just like we pulled a little bit of the energy out of the stressed syllable with the P and all of that. And now we're also doing it a little bit with the unstressed syllables by shortening it, taking some of the energy out. We're planning on. Let's take the next word, which was grilling. Let me hear you say the whole phrase, we're planning on grilling. Let me hear you say those 4 words together.
The right way, I assume.
No, however you want, and then we'll go with it.
We're planning on grilling.
Yes, that was pretty good. The on grilling went together very smoothly with no sort of like sausage link separator. I did still think there was a little too much air in the P, which makes sense. It's been your habit for 30-something years, and I just told you 5 seconds ago. But I do think that is something you can do. One of the things in Essentials that there's going to be more of in Module 3 and 4 is recording yourself. And part of what I want to teach students to do is to notice themselves. You will probably notice yourself when your P has more air in it than it needs to, now that we've discussed it. So by recording yourself more frequently, it's a way to change habits even faster, which is why I started integrating more of it into the Essentials course, because I felt like, you're learning so much. My students themselves can actually become great coaches for themselves when they listen to themselves. Like a couple times you heard things without me saying anything that you knew you wanted to change. And that gets even stronger the more you record and listen to yourself. The last thing I want to do, and I don't even know if I'm going to like this, I just want to try it, and then I might be like, no, forget it. Never do that again. But I want to see what it's like if we lower your pitch a little bit. So let's take the phrase, we're planning on grilling. And let me just hear you say it. I've just asked you, you're not thinking about pitch at all. You're just telling me what you're going to do. And I want to hear how that would happen for you. And then we might want to lower the pitch. So what are you doing for dinner tonight, Andre?
Planning on grilling.
Okay. So we're planning on grilling. We're planning on grilling. I do think we can lower the pitch there some. We're planning on grilling. So that's about where your pitch was. We're going to bring it down. We're planning.
Planning.
Yeah, we're planning.
Planning.
We're planning on grilling.
Planning, grilling.
We're planning on grilling.
Planning, grilling.
I also think grill. We don't have time now, but I do want you to work on your dark L a little bit in the word grill. That's kind of sticking out to me as a sound that I would work. So you can go to, after you finish Essentials and you're working on spot checking some of these sounds in the consonants course, we have a lot about the dark L. And also, I would say record yourself doing some soundboards and post them to the academy and just tell the teachers, hey, I need a little bit of coaching maybe on my dark L. And then they can help guide you to that. But this is all sounding just a little bit smoother, a little bit easier. And I know that it might not feel easier because it's a change of habit, and it's like to change a habit takes effort, yet the habit we're trying to make is less effort, and it sort of seems like it contradicts each other. How are you feeling about how are you going to approach your practice after this session?
Well, I've been writing some of your suggestions here, and I'm gonna into that, gonna find some of the lessons you suggested, and I'm gonna continue to implement that.
Okay.
The word, like the long words, the recently,
Yeah.
and so on. I sometimes put some big words whenever I talk. I have to be more aware that it's not exactly, and also the fact that the P that I'm emphasizing too much. Sometimes if you do too much of anything, it sounds difficult or not natural.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
but
And the thing about the words like initially and longer words and bringing out some of the energy away from taking it out of the unstressed syllables. That's also sort of what we're doing a little bit with the whole phrasing. Like when we said for work, the fur was so small and so quiet, and it just melted up into work. Work was not reattacked at the beginning. So the way that we phrase words within a phrase is just like how we do syllables within a longer word. It's smoothing it out and bringing it down. So you'll find that as you're building the habit for a word, you're building that rhythmic pattern. It's the exact same pattern that will come up as you work on phrases too. The last thing I wanted to say, Andre, was I told you I would tell you about another course where I think you can get a lot of bang for your buck, and that would be in the stress course. We have 3 of them, so it's the stress. We have 4, but it's the stress 3 course that I'm thinking of. It's where we have things like the 4 reduction for work, and we really work a lot of that. In Essentials, we do that too. As you know, you've worked on the at reduction in Essentials, and the 4 reduction is also part of Essentials. But as you're working on those, I want you to think about how, because a lot of the Essentials is linking 4 into one word, like for work, for school. And I want you to think about how the stressed word does not begin with its own extra air, its own extra emphasis, or anything like that. It doesn't get to start with that. It lifts up towards that and comes away. But it's like a crescendo up to it and away from it of energy. It's not like an attack of energy at any point. It's always drawing up and falling down for that smoothness. Okay, great job. And as you work on that, there are several challenges where you can post to the community since you have that access and get that feedback from those teachers. Andre, thank you so much for being here.
thank you.
I appreciate you being willing to go live with me. Keep up your good work.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Okay, I'm going to turn off your camera, and I will put you back in the classroom. That way you don't need to worry about ever getting whisked back into the live stream on accident. Okay, there we go. Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. Let's look at some comments and questions, shall we? Thank you so much to everyone who's here in the broadcast. I see somebody dropping a Brazilian flag. I was just working with someone whose native language is Brazilian Portuguese. Actually, I guess I'm assuming that. Perhaps it is just Portuguese. Phelp, hello. Floriano, hello. Good to see everybody here. Okay, I'm going to go over to the classroom where some students in Rachel's English Academy have posted some questions, and also post your questions to chat. It can be about the Academy. It can be about working on a particular sound or something that's tricky for you. It can be about how to access the Academy. I'm just reading a question here. Thank you, Christian, for letting me know that the lesson was good for you today. He says, I realize in these live classes that a lot of the students are already in the U.S. I'm wondering if that might be one of the best experiences you can use since you're forced to speak, used to learn because you're forced to speak. Definitely that is true. A lot of the people that sign up for the Academy are in the United States or Canada. Some of them are in Australia, and they're using English constantly. And they're able to notice their habits quickly. And if they're able to do recording exercises, they're also able to integrate their habits quickly, but they also have really strong habits already made. And sometimes that can be frustrating for my students living in the US and Canada, because it's almost like they have heavier baggage to try to deal with. So it can be a pro and it can be a con, but certainly a lot of the students are from the US and Canada. But as far as total academy students, it's still less than half. More than half of our students are currently living in a country where English is not one of the primary languages. So you're definitely in good company here, Christian. Okay, Muhammad Ali is asking about the correct pronunciation of the word complex. He says, because I've heard people say complex and complex. Two different pronunciations, two different stresses. And you know what? They're both right. I should actually make a video about this. We have a whole set of words where the stress and therefore the pronunciation changes based on how the word is being used. If I want to say this problem it's a really complex problem, I'm using it as an adjective to describe a problem. And you notice I said complex. So I had second syllable stress. But if I'm talking about a sports complex, a noun, a complex where we have a baseball field, 5 baseball fields, bathrooms, concession stands, that's a sports complex. And there I'm putting stress on the first syllable. Excuse me. Actually, Mohammed, if you looked that up in a dictionary, I'm sure you would see both pronunciations there. And like I said, there are lots of words that have this. The stress changes based on, and actually there are even some words where the pronunciations, like the word house. As a noun, we say that as an S. It's only one syllable, so there's no stress to change. But if we're using it as a noun, I'm going to house some people in my apartment for the summer, or for, let's make it fun, for the World Cup. I'm going to house some people here. Now I'm using it as a verb. The spelling is the same, but the pronunciation has changed. Now it's house, and it ends in a Z. So we have a lot of words in English that do that. So they're actually both correct. Both pronunciations are correct, and it depends on how you're using the word. Rara says, I'm afraid of talking to someone in real life with English. Can you give me some advice? Okay, my best advice is be prepared for misunderstandings and know that that's okay. If you're beginner or intermediate, it's almost unavoidable that you're going to not understand. Most likely, you're going to not understand what someone says to you. I think probably you'll be able to speak with somebody and they'll be able to ask what or clarification enough to get it. But then when the native speaker speaks back to us, and that's when it feels really overwhelming, right? Like they're speaking so quickly. How am I supposed to catch this? So it's great ahead of time to learn to say in English things like, could you please slow down? Could you say that again more slowly? Have a couple of phrases ready that you're going to use to ask people to slow down. Or if they do slow down and they're using words you don't know, you could say, I don't know those words. Or maybe you can even pick out one specific word and you can ask it, I don't know what that word is. Can you explain it differently? So these are all phrases that you'll want to know if you're entering conversation and you know it's going to be too fast. Can you please slow down? Could you please repeat that? I don't know those words. Could you try again? The thing is, most people are willing to really try with you. Most people with whom you are speaking want to make a connection happen too. So learn those phrases and just get out there and try it. Just try it. And then, maybe you can even ask them to help you. Oh, what was that word you said? I need to write it down. And then you can learn it, right? And then you'll never forget it because you learned it in a real conversation. Someone says, Albert Stepniak says, how do you pronounce school and fool? Both of those words have the dark L sound. Like I mentioned to Andre, I wanted him to work on. So they start with the oo vowel, which actually I also worked on with Andre. where the lips are going to start more relaxed with a little bit of jaw drop. Ooh. And then they round in. Foo. Then what is that sound at the end? That is the dark L. And for the dark L on both of these words, in both of these cases, I do not lift my tongue tip. I keep it down. Oh. And the dark sound is made with the back part of the tongue. Pressing down and back. Guys, I think I have about one more question left in me. I'm sorry for my cough and my sore throat. If you are a Rachel's English Academy student, I hope you know that you can always email us any questions that you have. I think I actually cannot even answer that one last question. Let me put in a throat lozenge. But in the meantime, check out rachelsenglishacademy.com, and I hope to see you as a student. Bye, everybody.